Florida is cracking down on out-of-state residents fleeing coronavirus hotspots. The Sunshine State announced it's going to roll out highway checkpoints to screen drivers from New York on I-95. The state has already set up similar measure on Interstate 10 to discourage travel from hard-hit Louisiana. Governor Ron DeSantis has also ordered travel restrictions aimed at flights coming from the New York tri-state area. And while travelers flying from New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut, they must self-quarantine for 2 weeks or face a 60-day jail sentence. It was unclear if motorists hailing from the tri-state would have to follow those same guidelines.
Joining us now is Republican Congressman from Florida, Greg Steube. Congressman, thank you for being with us this morning. I see you're at home right now. We're used to speaking with you from Washington. I have to ask, do you think the governor was right in his decision to restrict travel?
Yeah, and I had wished that he'd have done it a little sooner. And with the flights coming in, I wish that we would just be able to somehow domestically refuse people coming from these hot areas in the state of Florida. One of my counties, one of the biggest counties that I have in my district, the case that started some of the cases that they had there was from an individual who came recently from New York City, who didn't know he had the virus and then transmitted the virus to a bunch of other people that he worked with. So it's definitely happening in the state of Florida, and it's definitely happening from people that are coming from these areas like New York that have been hit hard with the coronavirus. And I think to protect the citizens of our state, that's a step that needs to be taken, and I applaud the governor for doing it.
Congressman, what does this look like for viewers? Because this is, I'm assuming it's new to you. It's new to pretty much everyone having to go through this. What does this look like on I-95? Is there a big sign that says, hey, look, you need to pull over? Is it an actual stop checkpoint? What are we going to see?
I haven't seen it. I think it's an actual stop, that they're stopping everybody coming in the state. I just read an article that said that, traffic is backed up for miles because of this. Wow. At the airport, when people come to the airport, they're being met. So if they're on a flight from New York City or New Jersey, they're being met at the airport terminal when they arrive by National Guard members who are advising them that you have to self-quarantine for 14 days. So that's one of the things that I mentioned about the flights. I don't know if the flights are still a good idea, because once they notify them, they're going about their business. We don't have any control other than this penalty that the governor's put in place to know that they're actually self-quarantining themselves. So if they're infected, getting on a plane from New York, coming here, and then obviously don't have symptoms, and then they get here and infect other people, I think that's very problematic.
Regardless, the governor does seem to be trying to prevent the spread from any sort of out-of-state travelers. In the meantime, Florida has faced criticism for keeping beaches open during spring break, allowing for people to travel back and forth for that, some beaches remaining open now. What's your response to that criticism?
Well, the governor allowed local officials to make that determination based on the facts and circumstances on the ground in their counties. We have a very diverse state, and my counties here in my district that have beaches, both in Charlotte and Sarasota, have shut down the beaches. What's interesting is we went out yesterday just to drive around, and the beaches on the city of Sarasota were shut down, but there were intercoastal areas that were not shut down, that were still within the city purview, that there were people out walking around, walking in the intercoastal areas. So the governor has left that up to locals to make that decision. I think that's the right choice. If locals want to be, if the county commission wants to restrict all beach access, or the cities want to do that, they have the ability to do that. You may be in a county, I have several counties in my district that don't have a single case. Now they're inland counties, they don't have beaches, but why are those inland counties going to heavily restrict public parks or those sort of things if they don't have to? So I think the governor making a decision and allowing each individual county to make those decisions, I think is a good call.
Congressman, Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi recently held an interview with one of the networks, and she was quoted in wanting an investigation into President Trump, saying she wants to know what the president knew about China and when did he know it. What's your response when you hear the speaker address this? We're in the middle of a pandemic situation.
Well, several things, and that's the first I've heard of this. The first thing is what haven't they investigated the president on? We spent his whole first 3 years on the Russia collusion hoax. I was on your show many times talking about the impeachment proceedings because I sit on the Judiciary Committee. What haven't they investigated this president for? And I think we need to be focused on a response, not investigating the president about what he did and didn't know at the time that he did or didn't know it. Actually, the mainstream press criticized the president heavily when he first restricted travel from Wuhan, China, a decision that I thought was a great decision to protect the borders and protect the United States. A president that's been calling for shutting down the borders and building a wall on our southern border, which would have prevented some of these instances. So, I mean, for them to ask to investigate this at a time where all of us are not in D.C. We are in our districts trying to do what we can to ensure that our districts are safe, that our hospitals have the supplies that they need, that our healthcare officials have everything that they need at their disposal. To be calling for investigations, I don't think is a proper thing to do at this point in time.
A lot of people are right there with you. That is Greg Steube, Florida Republican Congressman. Good to see you. Stay safe. Thanks for joining us.